What does it mean to introduce a character properly? When you're writing a first draft and you're adding your characters in, you hope that their actions and interactions will give a clear portrayal of who they are. So, if that's the case, picking the right point in your story to showcase your character is the key. Today, I want to take a look at how Vince Gilligan introduces the main characters of Breaking Bad and what moments he chooses to focus on. We're going to flash back in time to episode 1 where we meet Walt, Skyler, and Jesse. Then I want to explore the techniques used in the introduction of both the script and the show to see what was changed for better or worse and what we can learn from it. Ready? Let's go! In wonderful Breaking Bad fashion, the series opens up with the climax of the episode. This leaves the audience wondering, what did I just get myself into? It acts as a hook. We all want to know more about why this man is wearing a mask and his underwear racing through the desert in a smoky trailer. Then Vince Gilligan does something interesting. He allows the character to introduce himself. Walter White finds this video camera and allows himself to open up in this completely vulnerable way.
My name is Walter Hartwell White. I live at 308 Negra Arroyo Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
He gives his name, Walter Hartwell White, and he gives his address, Albuquerque, New Mexico. In the script, it's actually Ontario, California, but either way, now we know who this person is and where we are in the story. Then he says to the camera that this is not an admission of guilt, which adds a little bit more intrigue. After that, he addresses his family, his wife, his son, and his unborn child.
There are going to be some things that you'll come to learn about me in the next few days.
This introduction gives us all the basic, boring details and leaves out all the juicy parts of the show, which makes us want to learn more. It's done in a fashion that may seem blunt if it's used too often, but it doesn't here because of the nuances. The Winnebago, him being in his underwear, and the sirens coming from the distance. If it was simply Walt talking to the camera without all the external elements, then it would seem like a lazy intro. But here, it's an astonishingly economical way of introducing Walt. Skyler's introduction is much more subtle, but it's also very effective. She starts off by bringing Walt, on his 50th birthday, some veggie bacon. So right away, we know that she is concerned about her family's health. Then she starts interrogating him about when he's coming home. Right away, we get this feeling that she is gonna be this metaphorical thorn for everything Walt is going to do, even though she does it through love. It is setting up drama because we could feel the tension between these two characters. Skyler wants Walt to do something, but Walt's mind is clearly somewhere else. Walter Jr. does a really good job at breaking the tension between his parents. We see him enter with his crutches and is right away snarky with his mother. Walter Jr. becomes Walt's voice. Everything Walt is unable to say to his wife, Jr. doesn't have a problem saying to his mother. This shows us more about Walt because now we see how crappy the veggie bacon is, how there isn't enough hot water, how he's getting kind of sick, how he doesn't like confrontations, how he doesn't have enough money to upgrade his house. All of this emasculates Walt. The introduction of Skyler and Walter Jr. shows us that Walt is having a really hard time taking care of his family, but also how much his family loves him. As you introduce more characters and they begin to interact with each other, especially with your protagonist, it really does reveal a lot about them, even though it's very subtle. And that is definitely something we see in this breakfast scene. In the script, Walt's birthday actually happens in an Applebee's, so the introduction of Marie and Hank are actually quite different. In the script, it indicates that Skyler and Marie are sisters by saying that we see the resemblance. Then it goes on to have Marie question and judge Skyler for drinking wine even though she's pregnant, to which Skyler responds that it's okay if it's after the first trimester, even citing Newsweek, which I'm not so sure about. But this representation of characters is very different than the show, right? In the show, the first time we encounter Marie is in Skylar's kitchen when she's pouring herself a glass of boxed wine. This is actually a very impressive scene. In the kitchen, it gives us a very early impression of the animosity between these two sisters. A friend compliments Skylar for having a lack of a belly even though she's pregnant, and Marie is not able to handle it. Right away, we could tell what type of person Marie is. She is petty and unkind to Skylar. And let's be honest, is Marie anybody's favorite character? Hank's intro in the script also takes place at Applebee's, where he's responding to a story about Walt's boss, who happens to be named Amir. He goes on to say a bunch of offensive, ignorant stuff about the guy's culture and ethnicity. This is his way of putting down someone who is giving Walt a hard time. He cannot believe the injustice that Walt, a smart white man, has to work for someone who is clearly lesser. So that paints a certain picture of Hank, doesn't it? In the script, Hank is described as everything Walt isn't. Bold, brash, confident. And there's even this line where Walt notices how much Walter Jr. admires his uncle. That is the key. That is how we want to introduce Hank. In the show, Hank's introduction is of him showing off his pistol in front of a group of spectators, a group of men, including Walter Jr. Hank, as we see here, is a man's man, whatever that means. Then Hank hands the gun without a care to Walter Jr., who encourages his father to hold it. Here is where we see how weak Walt is in comparison to Hank. In a script or in text, it's easy to say that Hank is the complete opposite of Walt, but how do you show that on screen? How do you show, not tell? And I think Vince Gilligan did a really good job with this gun scene by using the gun as an exhibitor of confidence. One has complete confidence, while the other one is holding the gun like
Keith Richards with a glass of warm milk.
One of the funniest things I discovered when working on this specific project was that Jesse Pinkman's original name in the script is actually Marion Allen Dupree, which goes to show you, whatever name you pick for your character, it doesn't have to be final. In the script, Jesse, or Dupree, is described as being white, gawky, and in his early 20s. Picture a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo's. He comes falling out of the window like he does in the show, and yes, the housewife with the boobs hanging out, she was in the script too. Jesse makes eye contact with Walt, who happens to be the only person to see him, which makes us wonder, why isn't Walt ratting him out? To be honest, I feel like the introduction of Jesse is a little flawed. While all the other introduction in this episode is so economical, I somehow feel like this one is rushed. Some reason Jesse just being outside of his house when Walt approaches felt very convenient. And so quickly Walt is blackmailing this guy, and I don't really know anything about him except that he could seduce a housewife, he lost his business partner, and he's full of wisecracks.
Okay, you ain't welcome back, Cotter, so step off. No speeches.
However, if you look at the story through Walt's character arc, you realize how quickly he needed to make the exchange happen. He had the leverage, and he needed to use it right away. This was his only connection to the world where he could break bad. Yes, it is flawed, but there is a clear focus about what the story of the first episode is about. It's not about Jesse Pinkman. It's about Walt. Walt is the hero. The last character I want to talk about today is Crazy 8. In the script, Crazy 8 is introduced as someone who is living in a place that is a cross between a crack house and a frat house. And he was also playing NBA on PlayStation 2. This of course leads to many questions when translating it to screen, such as, how do we show a cross between a frat house and a crack house quickly enough that the audience will register it? Next, Vince Gilligan also wanted Crazy 8 to be intimidating, and having him play video games might not have been the best activity. Instead, they changed it up in the show by having Crazy 8 training his dog to attack this lynch dummy. And even when Jesse enters, he doesn't give him any attention. Jesse is just not that important. It's only when he discovers that Jesse is selling meth that he's a little bit interested. But still, he doesn't respond to anything Jesse says. He only asks his own questions, which shows that even when Jesse has the goods, Crazy 8 has the dominance. This scene is actually a fantastic way of showing which character has authority and which is weak. There you go. That is how Vince Gilligan introduces the main characters of Breaking Bad. What do you think? Are you interested in how other shows introduce their main characters? If so, let me know which one sparks your curiosity in the comments below. If you like this video, you should check out another one I made called How to Write a Cliffhanger Like Game of Thrones, where I break down the first season of Game of Thrones. Alright, I'll see you there. Bye.